Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Rel, and today I will be going over everything I did to pass the Security Plus exam in about a month. So, we're going to get straight into it, and I recommend you stay all the way to the end if you want to hear exactly what type of questions I ran into so you can get a better idea of what to expect when you actually take the real exam. So, getting straight into it, if you see me looking down, I have some notes because I have a tendency to ramble. But let's get into it. The first thing I would tell you all is don't take it within a month if you don't have to. So, like in my situation, the school gave out vouchers, but they expired in a month. So I had to take it in such short notice. But if you can give yourself at least like a month and a half, 2 months at minimum, I feel like that is the sweet spot to how much time you would really need. But if you do take it within a month, like how I did, you would have to set aside about 4 hours a day minimum to ensure that you pass within with a reasonable score. So yeah, let's get straight into the method I used to study. The first thing I did was I watched the full video course. The video course I decided to go with was Jason Dion's course. And mind you, the course is very, very long. It was about 30, 36 something hours long. But to be honest, towards the end, I kind of skipped around a little bit because it kind of seemed like common sense information. So if you run into stuff you already knew or stuff you feel like you don't really need to know it necessarily because it leans kind of towards, just common sense, I would skip it for the time being. So the key with the video course, what I did was after each section, let's say I went over section 1, section 2, section 3 for one day. After I got done with those sections, let's say it took about 2.5 hours. The remainder of my time, I would plug those sections into ChatGPT and ask it to give me questions on exactly what I just watched. So you're reinforcing the learning and making sure the information sticks. And that was the best way for me to retain the information long term. So after I went through the whole video course, I did that same method for all the sections that I watched. I then decided it was time to, buy practice tests. And I was looking around and they say the best practice tests were from Professor Messer. And, I would have to agree. He gives pretty solid questions. The questions were probably the most similar to what I've seen on the test. And he also breaks down each question for why each choice was right and why the other ones were wrong, which is very, very useful. And the strategy I did with the test was I went through and took every test, obviously not on the same day. I would spread them out. But every time I took a test, I would sit down and take it like I was taking the real thing. And after I would grade it, go through, see what I got right, see what I got wrong. And for all the questions I got wrong, I would see, why did I get it wrong? What choice wasn't I familiar with? Because 9 times out of 10, if I got it wrong, it was a question on there with answer choice I never really heard of, or that I didn't come across in the video course, or I just may have forgot. So I would write that down, write down everything I didn't know, and then I would just go over that, and I would actually do the same thing for the questions I got right as well. So after I did that for all the questions I got wrong, I would go through the ones I got right, and let's say I got it right, but it was an answer choice I wasn't sure on. I would write that down, and then I would just go through and I would go through the ones I got right, the ones I got wrong, and just see what I needed to reinforce to make sure I really had a full understanding of what would be on the exam. So yeah, those are two paid options, but you could definitely maybe get through it without spending any more money because I know money is different for everybody. So I did come across some free sources that were beneficial to me. So for a free video course, Professor Messer actually has a free video course, and his is pretty informational. It doesn't go as in detail as Jason Dion's course, but I can see that I can see his video course definitely helping you in the long run as well. I don't think it's bad. It's just not in detail. So Yeah, you can do his video course if you don't want to spend any more money. And as far as free practice tests, I ran across two YouTube channels. The first one is Darkbird Tech, and the second one is Cyber James. I will try to remember to link those channels down below, but I feel like their questions were pretty solid as well. They were pretty close to what I seen on the actual exam, and the good thing about those two channels is the questions are free. So if you didn't want to look into spending any more money, I would use those sources. So kind of just to briefly go over my experience with the actual exam. It was, the practice test, all of the questions they helped, but I feel like nothing really compares to the actual thing. I don't know if it was the nerves from actually taking the exam, but the practice test questions, it's just you can only get so close to what the real thing is. And I feel like the real test is harder because the questions are more vague. They're not as wordy. For the practice test, I took like the questions were long, probably about like a half a paragraph, 3 sentences long. But on the real exam, it's really just, I think the longest question, multiple choice question, was about a sentence at most, or maybe 2 sentences at most. I know nothing longer than 2 sentences. The questions are really short, straight to the point, and they're kind of vague. And you really just have to go with your gut and what you think is the best option, honestly. And just do the best you can. That's what I did. Now the PBQs were, a monster. Honestly, in my study time, I didn't spend that much, effort putting into the PBQs. I was just more focused on getting the multiple choice questions right. So you can allocate more time in your studying to go over PBQs. I think it's a few YouTube channels that go over those specifically. I didn't look at them because that wasn't my focus. I was just focused on the multiple choice questions. But you may want to spend a little more time on the PBQs. But I didn't spend a lot of time on them, and I still was able to get a 780 on the actual test. And I think you need a 750. You need a 750 to pass. So I barely spent any time doing the PBQs, and I still got a reasonable score. But the type of PBQs I got were like you're actually setting up networks, you're putting firewalls where they need to be, you're looking and scanning actual, SIEM logs to figure out, where is the attack coming from, where did the virus originate. And yeah, like you're actually scanning, like you were in a real world situation. So yeah, I didn't really get any like PBQs where it's like matching the term to where it need to be. I didn't get any PBQs like that. So mine were very difficult, but and I'm pretty sure I got them wrong, but I still ended up getting a good score on the exam. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to share. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me down below and I will answer them. But yeah, that's exactly the method I use to pass the Security Plus exam. If I can do it, I know for sure you can. You just have to allocate the right amount of time to study and really immerse yourself in the content. And I have no doubt you will pass. You won't pass. You won't fail. I have no doubt you won't fail. So, just put in the work and you'll be good. I hope this video is helpful and I'll see y'all next time.